This time on the Serve to Perform podcast.
And I'm sure everybody has a different perspective depending on their background. For me, I think the biggest advice that I would give a young Latino would be to take risk and be confident in yourself. And let me give you a little more context for that, right? I think, at least from my experience and what I've seen, I come from a family of immigrants, right? So blue-collar workers. And sometimes there can be margins put on yourself culturally.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mallory McGee, and I want to welcome you to a special Latinxna edition of the Serve Perform podcast. Today, we're joined by Ivan Flores. Ivan is our newest member of the Latinxna S.E.A.L team, and we're excited to be talking with him today. Ivan, welcome.
Thank you.
So I know that you recently relocated to Northwest Arkansas as part of the Talent Incentive Program. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. So the Talent Incentive is really focused around bringing talent to Northwest Arkansas to help with the growth, right, both professionally but also in the community. And my understanding is that we're really looking for individuals with a STEM background, good citizens, people that can really contribute to Northwest Arkansas. So far, there's been about 30 or 40 of us that have been selected for the program, with many more to come. And there's people with all kinds of different walks of life, different professions, right? There's entrepreneurs, there's artists. For me specifically, I kind of fall more into the tech realm, right? So my career focusing on tech and certainly bringing those skill sets. And also people that could enjoy what Northwest Arkansas has to offer, right? The trails, the outdoors, and certainly I've done that. I love running, playing soccer, so I found a community here to be able to do that. Again, the program's been wonderful. We're here to help grow the community and bring our skill sets and our experience to continue to grow Northwest Arkansas.
That's awesome. When you were living in Dallas and, in your normal routine, how did you even learn about the LifeWorks Here program?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Let me backtrack, right? So I've lived in Dallas the last 5 years. However, I grew up in Arkansas, so Arkansas is home for me. More specifically, more like the River Valley, Clarksville, Arkansas, and I went to college at UCA. I graduated 2016, but I kind of wanted to get out of my comfort zone. This is all I knew, and so I moved to Dallas. COVID kind of hit, and it kind of really put life into perspective, and it was fragile, and me and my wife did not have family in Dallas, right? So we just had friends, and we kind of realized that we were only there for a job. So it just happened that our family members here in Arkansas actually told us about this program that rolled out, and simultaneously we were kind of already thinking about potentially coming back to Northwest Arkansas. So it just kind of lined up perfectly. Applied for it, went through the interview process, and we got it, right? So I was really excited to be able to come back home, quote unquote, and just have that sense of community that I think we were lacking while we were in Dallas, and be able to kind of give back.
Yeah, that's really cool. So can you tell me more about what you do for a living and
Sure.
how you've managed to keep all of that afloat with relocating to Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of do two things. First is kind of my 9-to-5 corporate job. I work for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. I do a lot of our cloud consulting, so helping customers adopt cloud models to help drive their business through Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Now, I also do a lot of crypto investing, right? So maybe that's something new. I know a lot of people that were part of the Northwest Arkansas Talent Incentive are part of crypto, or like crypto. So I do that as well. So if anybody's interested, let me know. So those are kind of the two things that I do in terms of what I do for a living. Thankfully, both my 9-to-5 job allows me to work remote, so kind of a hybrid model. I work from home. If I need to go see customers local in the area or elsewhere, I can do that. And sometimes I'll go to coffee shops or whatever, but I'm very much working remote at the moment, and that's how it will continue to be. So that really provided me the opportunity to be able to take advantage of the Talent Incentive Program as well, because one of the requirements was that you would have the capability to work remote. So I'm able to do that. So it works very well from a work-life balance, that I can do that, but still take advantage of, I'm actually training for a marathon at the moment, so I'm doing a lot of running in the mornings or afternoons, and then playing soccer on the weekends and everything in between. So it is kind of hard to balance, but at the end of the day, it's really rewarding, both from a professional perspective, personal, and recently married the last year and a half or so. So yeah, I mean, again, just like anything else in life, you just kind of put the work in, and it's all worth it at the end. So,
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your recent nuptials. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I want to shift gears a little bit. I have another question for you that I like to ask a lot of our speakers with Latinxna. So we always want to pass on, what we've learned, right?
Sure.
And so I always ask our speakers, what is some advice that you would share with a young professional, a young Latino, a young person coming up into this world?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm sure everybody has a different perspective depending on their background. For me, I think the biggest advice that I would give a young Latino would be to take risk and be confident in yourself. And let me give you a little more context for that, right? I think, at least from my experience and what I've seen, I come from a family of immigrants, right? So blue-collar workers. And sometimes there can be margins put on yourself, culturally speaking, right, or limits by your friends or family members, right? Because there's kind of this cycle of all they've ever known was go to high school, blue-collar jobs, and that's fine, right? And if you're that first person that wants to break that cycle, sometimes psychologically speaking, you can get a lot of pushback, right, from your internal family members or friends at times because they don't know any other way to progress in life and they don't really know how to help you because they've never done that for yourself. So you got to be really, really confident in the goals and what you want out of life because it's different than what they've been able to do, right? So at the same time, be confident in your skill sets, be confident in your education, be confident in what you can bring in your goals and take risk, right? Meaning be open to failing, taking risk in a career or a field that you're passionate about that perhaps you don't have the expertise on or you don't have the networking in, right? So I think a combination of taking those risks and being confident in what you want out of your life, even though sometimes you might be marginalized by your internal community, right, or those closest to you, just because, at least in my experience, like I said, I'm the first one in my family to graduate college. Certainly one of the very few that work in the field that I work in today. And a lot of those things came with challenges, right? But again, just kind of those two pillars of staying confident and taking risk have given me the opportunity to be where I'm at today.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that we hear a lot, that we've heard a lot this past year and from our speakers. And it's about being accountable and owning your own career and your own progress. And I love that. I love what you're saying about taking risks. That's important for people to hear. So I also wanted to ask you, I know that giving back is important to you and that serving your community is important, being a part of your community. I want you to tell us a little bit more about why it's important and what we can do better to be better members and be more inclusive.
Yeah, so again, if I think about my journey of immigrant coming to this country, going to high school and college, I kind of hit a point in my life a few years ago where, I thought about, what would I have wanted, right, when I was that age, meaning mentor, advice, because I didn't necessarily have it, and that's not to put in anybody, right? Again, I own my future. That's okay. So when I took that stance, I said, man, I think there's a lot that I could give back to the younger generation that I didn't necessarily have and be able to give back. For example, I'm actually right now in the process of creating a scholarship fund at the high school that I went to specifically for soccer players because that's what I grew up doing, right?
That's incredible.
So again, right, when I was going through high school, nobody really gave me advice on next steps in college. Financial opportunities weren't necessarily there, right? So my passion of being able to give back. And I think the best thing we can do is being able to inspire others and help others in the ways that maybe we weren't helped, because it just kind of passes it forward, right? So for me, it's that. It's, hey, look, when I was that age, I wish I had a mentor. I wish I had this help. And I think now I'm in a position that I can do that for individuals. So I want to do that. So yeah, again, that's kind of my thought process. And I'll be quite frank with you, right? It wasn't always that way. Especially early on in my career, I was more selfish about me, right? Meaning like, what's my next steps? What's my next promotion? What's my next salary goals? And it's just been the last few years where it's kind of taken it back, and now I'm like in a position where I can give back, and sometimes you got to realize that too, right? Because you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And when I say give back, it's not monetary all the time. It's sometimes giving time, right? So if you can't fund a scholarship, can you fund a mentorship, right? Where you're just speaking with an individual weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Can you go talk at your local high school or even within your own family, right? There's a lot of different ways in which you can give back. And we need to, right? Because when I think about the Latino community, we are a community that's growing, right? We're a community that's becoming more educated. We're a community that are passionate about our culture. And sometimes we're a community that quite frankly, at least recently, we've kind of been, targeted in a way, right? And so we need to support each other with that and get and help each other as much as we can. And so that's kind of my passion and my thought process on giving back and why I do it.
I mean, I'm blown away. I didn't expect that answer to come out of you. I had no idea you were working on a scholarship, which is just fascinating and incredible, and I want to learn more. But I also really paid attention to what you were saying about, early on in your career, you were more focused on your own personal gains, right? And now you're kind of at this point in life where you are more focused on giving back. And so I'm just kind of curious, what got you to that point in life?
Yeah. I think it's a combination, maturity, right? Everything kind of time comes with time. Yeah. I think we all go through different stages of life. But I think for me, one of my biggest idols was Kobe Bryant, right? And when he passed away, you kind of started to understand that his biggest legacy wasn't necessarily him as a basketball player and everything he did individually, right? That was great. But for him, it was more about how could he help others and inspire others and tell stories that could help individuals become the best version of themselves, whatever that was, right? And so I think it was that moment where I said, look, everything that I'm doing for myself, career-wise, or just personal, it's wonderful, right? But the biggest thing we can do, again, is make an impact on other people, right? And I think it was that a few years ago that really hit home and kind of turned it for me a different perspective. And ever since, I've been kind of on this mission of trying to do as much as I can to impact and provide and give back to the communities that I serve and the communities that I'm within. So yeah, I think that was probably the turning point for me. And also it takes a lot of honesty and transparency with yourself to be able to recognize that, right? And you just got to be honest. And I kind of hit that point. I said, maybe I was a little bit selfish and trying to acquire. And I think it also comes back where I came from, right? I immigrant. My family didn't always have a lot, so to me, I was priority in acquiring stuff, acquiring assets, education, career, right? And so, but then you get to the point where you say, okay, what's next? And that next doesn't really fulfill you anymore, right? The next is, how do I help others? And that becomes more fulfilling than anything else. And so those were kind of a couple of the turning points for me that really helped me pivot into kind of where I'm going now. And by the way, everything that I feel like I'm doing for others, it kind of pays itself back, right? I've also seen professionally, growth as well. So you can do both, right? You don't have to do either or. Yeah.
Well, Ivan, we've heard a lot about the things that you're doing with Hewlett-Packard and with Latinxna and the scholarship that you're creating in Clarksville. And I just want to hear a little bit more before we leave today about what's next for you and what you have next for your aspirations and dreams.
Yeah, good question. And I certainly think having goals is very, very important. So what's next for me? I'll give you two different perspectives, both from a professional and personal, right? Because they kind of blend into one. Professionally speaking, as I mentioned before, I'm investing in cryptocurrencies at the moment. I hope that continues to develop going forward and diving myself into that. In fact, I'm actually taking part of a crypto academy here in a couple of weeks to dive deeper into the technology, the impact, and the evolution that's going to be. So I'm excited to go down that path. Professionally speaking, certainly hope to continue to work for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. At the moment, we're working on putting together some content for Hispanic Heritage Month, so look forward to that, and continuing to be involved in helping Latinos come into the tech world through Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, so recruiting events, referrals, and then also I'm the chair of our Junto CRG there, so continuing to champion Latinos within Hewlett-Packard. From a professional perspective, those are kind of two short-term things that I'm working on. Eventually want to get into real estate investing as well, longer term. And then just personally speaking, as I mentioned, training for a marathon, the Little Rock Marathon at the end of November. Once that's up, hopefully I have the opportunity to run a marathon here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
That would be great. Also, as I mentioned, married for almost 2 years now, so family's probably coming here in the short term as well. So really excited for that stage of life in a couple years to get that started. So yeah, that's kind of what's next for me. But certainly things could change, right? That's kind of a plan now, but being flexible. All I know is that two things will stay constant, which is my drive to have a better life for myself and my family, and my drive to be able to help as many people along the way as I can. Those are kind of the two constants. Everything else can flux a little bit.
That's great. It's been amazing learning from you today and hearing about all the things you're doing. You certainly have a long list of things to do in your future, and I'm excited to see all of those things come to fruition and be a part of it. So thank you again, Ivan.
Mallory, thank you for the time. Hopefully conversation we had today can make an impact on somebody, right? And certainly if anybody wants to reach out, feel free. Again, thank you to Latinxna. I look forward to being part of the S.E.A.L team. I look forward to contributing back to the community through this organization. Really, really excited. And again, thank you so much.